I'd like to thank the Minister of State for coming in here this afternoon to deal with this very, very important issue that she's very familiar with. Now, I don't want anything that I say here this afternoon to any way preempt or be seen to try influence on Board Plan Law. Their decision will be made in due course, but it's imminent. It's what happens after that decision, if the decision is positive, and what processes follow that I want to address today. The reality is, of course, that this project is based, well, it's there for the last 30 years, but the most recent analysis of the requirements of Galway for transport was done in 2016 by the Galway City and County Council and the NTA. And it's a very comprehensive strategy, and it looks at walking, cycling, public transport, etc., etc. But one of the things I pointed out was that Galway needed a road around the city as a piece of critical infrastructure to connect east to west. Now, for the record here, and I know the Deputy no more than myself is familiar with the territory, but many people watching and listening to this debate won't be familiar. There are about 40,000 people living in the city west of the city. There are another nearly 40,000 people living in Connemara, which is west of the city, which gives you a total population of 80,000. It's an area that obviously attracts a huge number of tourists every year. Now, you've got two ways out of Connemara effectively. You come across the city, or if you don't come across the city, because Lough Corrib forms a barrier between east and west, between Connemara and the west of the city, and the east of the city and the rest of the country, you have to go 50 kilometres north, in fact to where I live myself in Cornamona, to get out by the next available route. Now, within the city, there are 4 bridges across the Corrib River. 3 of those are old bridges. One of them, the Salmon Weir Bridge, which is very famous in Galway and many, many people know, is to be transformed for public transport only, cycling and walking. The other 2 in the city centre itself are very narrow bridges, which leaves one newer bridge across the Corrib to take the traffic of the 80,000 people coming and going, many of whom do that every day. Because in Galway, a lot of the people live in the west of the city, the industries in the east of the city. So the need to break the logjam that's there, to free up city space for cycling, for walking, for all the purposes that we want in our living cities, for public transport, which Galway is poorly served with. The need, and it's poorly served with because the road infrastructure is not there, the need to progress with this is very evident. So, Minister, what I want you to do is outline for me the processes that will have to be followed if this project is approved by Board Plan Law before it will be actually put into construction, taking into account the announcement in the NDP this week, and more particularly the announcement made by Minister Ryan in relation to a new step that he has put into the evaluation of all these projects in relation to carbon footprint.
Corla, and I'd like to thank the Deputy for raising this important issue. The Minister for Transport has responsibility for overall policy and securing exchequer funding in relation to the National Roads Programme. Once funding arrangements have been put in place with Transport Infrastructure Ireland under the Roads Act 1993 to 2015 and in line with the National Development Plan, the planning, design, improvement and upgrading of individual national roads is a matter for TII in conjunction with the local authorities concerned. TII ultimately delivers the national Roads Programme in line with Project Ireland 2040, the National Planning Framework and the NDP. In the new NDP, launched on the 4th of October, approximately €5.1 billion is earmarked for new national roads projects to 2030. This funding will enable improved connectivity across the country as well as compact growth, which are core components of the revised NDP. The funding will enable the development of numerous national roads projects, including the completion of projects which are already at construction and those close to it, as well as the development of many others. In relation to the N6 Galway City Ring Road, this project is one of the projects included in the National Development Plan, which is currently at planning application stage. The proposed project around Galway City comprises of 12.5 kilometres of motorway and 6 kilometres of single carriageway. The route would run between the existing N6 at Coola to the existing Ballymoneen Road and continues as a single carriageway road for a further 5 kilometres of protected road west of Barna. The new orbital route would travel around the city and include a new bridge crossing over the River Corrib. Galway County Council published the road scheme and submitted the planning documentation for the scheme to An Bord Pleanála for approval in October 2018. An Bord Pleanála wrote to Galway County Council in April 2019 requesting further information in relation to the environmental impacts of the scheme, and this was submitted in August 2019. An Bord Pleanála requested that Galway County Council publish the further information for inspection by the public. The closing date for further information on display was the 25th of October 2019, and this was subsequently extended to the 24th of January 2020. An oral hearing commenced on the 18th of February 2020 and concluded on the 4th of November 2020, inclusive of a 7-month gap in proceedings due to COVID-19 restrictions. Galway County Council are awaiting a decision from An Bord Pleanála, which has recently been pushed back to a decision by a new target date of the 19th of November 2021. If planning approval is received from An Bord Pleanála and there are no legal challenges, the proposed project will require government approval under the Public Spending Code to proceed to the next stage, including procurement of a contractor. And given that the project cost is expected to be more than €100 million, it would also be subject to final government approval in advance of construction. This project is a key component, as you say, Deputy, of the Galway Transport Strategy, which realises Galway City and County Council's vision of all elements of transport working together to achieve an integrated, sustainable transport system. The project would, as you say, Deputy, free up road space in the city by removing through traffic for use by improved public transport services and active travel modes, and improving air quality and reducing noise levels in the city. As the principal economic centre of the west of Ireland, Galway City is critical to employment in the region, and this project would contribute towards ensuring the city is able to cater for future economic expansion and development. As a gateway to Connemara and the western region, which includes large Gaeltacht areas, the optimisation of transport connectivity within Galway City will be essential to help the region chart a steady course for economic growth. The additional bridge crossing of the Corrib will provide this accessibility to the west. By reducing traffic volumes on the existing road network, this proposed project will drastically improve journey times and allow for safer and more reliable journeys for road users. It will improve the existing collision rating, which currently stands at twice the average rate in the country. The project will provide direct access to major employment centres at Parkmore and Ballybrit business parks and offers an opportunity to execute the vision of the Galway Transport Strategy. Galway County Council already have an advanced negotiation strategy in place in relation to the proposed Galway City Ring Road. All affected householders were invited to participate, and discussions and negotiations have been ongoing with those willing to participate since mid-2019. If the scheme is approved and confirmed, Galway County Council will prioritise the acquisition and agreements associated with the affected residential properties.
Concordia, could I ask first of all that a full copy of the transcript be made available, because we got a little presse of it. Minister Ryan, your senior cabinet minister, announced during the week a new process that's to be followed, which seems designed as being a very clever way of stopping projects like this. Can you outline for me what that process will entail? Whether in the case of a road it will be based on cars and HGVs and buses being fuelled by fossil fuels, or by what will happen in the future, hydrogen, which we will produce in abundance in the west of Ireland because we'll have so much renewable electricity. And that's already been looked at in the region for public transport. and by electric. So can you tell me how this new process is going to work out, what it will entail, the basis of which will be decided, or is this just a new method by the Greens to stop this project going ahead and to stymie once again the proper development not only of Galway City but of the whole region west of the city that, that requires so much development? So the basic question is, what is really going on? What's the subtext to all of these new announcements? I noticed there's no reference in your speech, and the part I have anyway, to this new extra layer of bureaucracy that's added to the scheme. I know that this wasn't added without a very, very deadly purpose. And what I'm trying to elicit here today is this a scheme by the Minister to make sure that this project doesn't go ahead and that it gets strangled if and when it were to get through the VideoParliament process.
Thank you, Deputy. Just in relation to if the planning is approved, if a planning approval is received from a board planola and there are no legal challenges, then the proposed project will then require government approval under the Public Spending Code to proceed to the next stage, and that will include procurement of a contractor. And given that the project is more than €100 million, it will also be subject to final government approval in advance of construction. I can come back to you, I'll get Minister Ryan to come back to you, Deputy, in relation to the sequencing of approvals if this is approved by An Bord Pleanála. The policy is this project is a key component of Galway Transport Strategy, which realises Galway City and County Council's vision of all elements of the transport system working together to achieve an integrated, sustainable transport system. The Galway City Ring Road would free up road space in the city by removing through traffic, and this road space could be used for improved public transport services and active travel modes, while improving air quality and lowering noise levels. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic impacted the timelines for this vital regional project. The oral hearing, as I said, commenced in February 2020 and concluded in November 2020 due to a 7-month gap in proceedings as a result of COVID. And I am confident that An Bord Pleanála will make its decision next month, and I'm hopeful for a positive outcome. The programme for government commits to a 2-to-1 ratio of spending on new public transports over new roads. This commitment has been confirmed in the National Development Plan published this week, which makes clear that substantial funding will be made available over the coming decade for new national road programmes and projects. As the principal economic centre in the west of Ireland, Galway City is critical to employment in the region, and this project would contribute towards ensuring the city is able to cater for future economic expansion and development.
Thank you very much.
The Minister makes a major announcement about a new carbon test for all these big projects. And it's obvious it will have a big impact on the Galway Road project because it's quite an expensive.
I think the Minister of State has indicated that she'll ask the Minister to
But what I'm saying is, I think it is totally disrespectful of the House to come in here today and not to have the answer to the most obvious basic question that everybody in Galway wants the answer to.
To be fair, Deputy, there is a cabinet meeting taking place and the Minister has come.
I'm quite happy to be here because it is an important project for the region. And just to say, Deputy, that if this project is approved by An Bord Pleanála and there are no legal challenges, the next step then is government approval is required under the Public Spending Code, and then we will proceed to the next stage, including procurement of a contractor. And given that the project is in excess of 100 million, it will require further government approval. There is another process called NIFTY, which has 4 priorities, all of equal weight, all of equal ranking. One of them is that we need to ensure that roads meet with regional and have regional connectivity. A second one is decarbonisation. Another is we need to ensure the mobility of goods and people in our urban centres. And all of these are taken into consideration when we are looking at projects.
Thank you, Minister.
But I will give you more information, Deputy, and I will relay your questions to Minister Ryan.
Okay.